On today's news broadcast, we're going to talk about should EVs be mandated. Me personally, I believe that they should not be mandated. On today we're going to talk about the cost of them, the environmental impacts, and the sentimental impacts that electric vehicles might have on someone or a group of people. Many people might say that electric vehicles provide a lower cost, they're better for the environment, and the people saying this are California Air Resources. So we're going to talk about the cost. So on this graph here, we can obviously see it's a comparison between a Hyundai Kona electric EV, that's the one in light blue, and the gas-powered version in the yellow. And we can see that there's obviously a difference. So the starting price of the blue one is much higher, which is the electric one, than the yellow one. And then over a certain amount of time, we can see that they finally even out at the 12-year mark, which this doesn't apply to Ford, but they also have their way of getting stuff is a lot more efficient and stuff because they've been around longer, and the chain and stuff like that. And then based on this graph here, we're comparing, based on these two charts, we can see the starting prices of both Equinoxes, one being EV, they are the exact same. I made sure they were the exact same because I used a Chevy.com builder to build them. And then based on the price, we can see that there's a $16,000 price difference between the two cars. And then here's the price difference between the Hyundai Konas. That's a $8,525 price difference, and those should both be the base model ones. So no ads, no dealer things, stuff like that. Driving on, we're going to talk about the environmental impacts that EVs and gas cars can have on our environment. So the CO2 produced over the lifetime, right here, we can see, so this is in tons, the CO2 produced in tons by each vehicle. So conventional would be our gas cars, and with a 400-mile range, that's about how much you'll get out of like gas and stuff like that. I don't know what the year is or what, but to get the same amount of range out of an electric car, you have to produce nearly 25 tons more, which, yeah. And then according to Donut Media on YouTube, they talk a lot about how much tons, so this is a lithium farm, which is put in the electric car's batteries because it's needed for the chemical reaction to produce the electricity. And there's also cobalt, and those take up I think less than 5% each in the battery. So it's such a small amount, but they produce so much CO2 that it's just not comparable to a gas car in general, especially in the production process. It's not. And yeah. And today we're going to talk, nextly, we're going to talk about the sentimental impacts electric vehicles can have on someone. And gas cars, mainly gas. So this is Ken Block. He was a professional rally car driver who retired in 2017 just because he was getting old and stuff like that, and he had his family. And then after retiring, he started a YouTube series and a company called Hoonigan, and they did major stunts and major things with cars and stuff, like Gymkhana, this is the Hoonicorn, and they took that to Pikes Peak and just drifted around the entire outside of it. It's like a whole montage and stuff. And then, so there's the Hoonicorn again. The Hoonicorn plays a major part because it is his main staple car. And then because he died a lot, 3 years ago, it's something that has some sentimental value, especially to his daughter, Leah Block. And so does his whole car collection that he has, with mainly Fords, because he does have he did have a sponsorship with it. But yeah, Leah Block being able to drive the Unicorn or any one of his cars definitely plays a major impact on how like she feels and the nostalgia that it brings her. But if she was unable to drive those and they were banned and electric vehicles were mandated, then she wouldn't be able to drive them and get that same feeling of remembering her dad and stuff like that. And then one thing that will definitely play a major part in her life, right before Ken Block died, she just turned old, like 16 or something, so she was just now old enough to drive. So she got her first car that was gifted to her by her dad, and then they went and upgraded this car, and all this information is according to Shweta Sharan, something like that. So yeah, they built that car together, so her not being able to drive that car would probably not make her very happy, because she wouldn't be able to remember her dad or anything that he did and the stuff that they did together, other than have those memories and not be able to bring back the feeling and stuff. And then to me, if EVs were mandated, it'd probably, I don't know, be kind of upsetting, because when I was a kid, my dad owned like 1998 Honda Civic hatchback, which is very similar to the one in this car. It was all red, had white wheels, but it also had a body kit. And then, so I'd like to own that car one day, just because it'd give me something to remember him by and stuff like that when he's gone. But currently, I own a 2002 Honda Civic DX Coupe, which is like this one, but it's a lot rougher, but it's still fun, and I enjoy driving it just because it's kind of related to one of the first cars my dad had. So, and then for today, to recap, we talked about how EVs are more expensive than gas cars just based on the starting price. As of now, it is not worth it to get an EV just because of the high starting price, but over time, it definitely does make up for it because you don't have to pay for maintenance and all that stuff. So it is a lot cheaper. And then today we also talked about how EVs and gas cars have almost the same environmental impact. Obviously, EVs are a little better, but that is only in the long run, just because the amount of carbon dioxide produced when making the batteries and all that stuff, and the factories that they're made in aren't exactly as streamlined as gas-powered cars, just because the production line for gas-powered cars has been around forever. So that's almost as good as it gets. And then gas cars have a more sentimental meaning to some people, obviously not others, but I've been around cars my whole life, so being able to have a car that reminds you of someone is relatively important, and then being able to drive it definitely helps a lot. And then that's it.